Clear orange ocean spells danger. What does that mean? Well, all will be revealed in the next few minutes. The MMA, the Mobile Marketing Association, and Nomad Foods have come together to discuss how marketing organizations can drive growth. I'll be sharing some of the results of the MMA's recent research study covering over 650 organizations for our MOST program. That's our Marketing Organization Structure think tank. No doubting that marketing has never been more exciting or more challenging. Just think about these: customer expectations, competition, regulation, marketing operations, company expectations, and data requirements. I'm sure these statements, which represents feedback the MMA has received from marketers during this program, they really ring true. I thought I knew my role. Marketers divided between brand and performance. We're adding, not changing.
I'm delighted to welcome my guest, Steve Axe, the CMO of Nomad Foods today. Steve, please tell us about yourself, your role as a CMO, what's on your agenda, and do these challenges that I've just outlined, do they sound familiar to you?
Great, thanks, Chris. Thanks for the welcome, the opportunity to join you for a chat. So, yeah, I'm CMO of Nomad Foods. I've been here for 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was 17 years at Mars and 8 years at P&G. Lived and worked in 3 continents across various different global, local, regional roles. Nomad Foods, for those who don't know it, is the company name for some household brands that I'm sure you've got in your freezer. So Bird's Eye, Igloo, Findus, Goodfellas, and Bessie's. So that's who we are. CMO, I obviously head up marketing, insights. Sustainability is also a passion of mine, and I also run sustainability. And finally, the plant protein division, which is a vertically integrated business unit for us, and really the future of food. I'm also accountable for that. So that's my role. I love it. I love what I do and where I am. In terms of your question around, do those challenges resonate? Yeah, absolutely. I think the couple that resonate with me and what's on my agenda is tech and data in particular, to pick on a couple. We're getting more and more data. We're drowning in data, and there are a couple of reflections. One is, just because we can doesn't mean we should. And I think that's one of the challenges with data. Just because you can do so much with it, and you can micro target, and you can really go in hoops with the consumer, doesn't mean you should. We need discipline on strategy. Start with the business outcome and KPIs. And then secondly, the challenge with tech and data is the creative needs to keep pace with that. And I'll come on to that later as well. Creative is still the key that unlocks the door. And the fundamentals of mental availability still haven't changed. Great communication starts with great creative.
Thanks, Steve.
We know from our research that CMOs are asking themselves and their organizations questions around organization structure, centralization, decentralization, the marketing footprint, in-source, outsourcing, and capabilities. Does our marketing organization have the right capabilities to compete? The biggest single area to having a successful marketing organization by some way was this marketing capability fit, as seen here at the end on the right-hand side. Let me explain. Marketing capability fit is the ratio between your important and vital marketing capabilities and your performance in executing against them. The fit is higher if you excel at a marketing capability like customer relationship management, marketing tech maybe, and it's hugely important to your organization. To measure this, you should start with a complete list of growth-related capabilities, assess how important each is to your growth in the next couple of years, and then assess how well developed you are in each capability, your performance, then measure the average distance between importance and performance. Hope that's clear. The higher the fit, the more likely you'll be a winning marketing organization, WMO, and not a lagging marketing organization. Our proprietary MOST research from over 650 organizations that I mentioned earlier shows that these organizations with high capability fit have 3 times the level of growth of lagging marketing organizations. And a 1% increase in fit leads to a 2.5% increase in sales growth. A 1% increase in fit leads to a 2.5% increase in sales growth.
In this context I've just described, Steve, around having the right capabilities, What does that mean for transformation, especially digital transformation at Nomad? And maybe give us an insight into how you've approached this whole area.
Yeah, so we're undergoing, as many businesses are, transformation in lots of areas of marketing. It's constantly evolving. If I take kind of media as a broader part of the kind of the digital question, I think there's some of the transformation elements there. One is around true channel neutral approach. That's one of the key challenges we've got. And digital plays a key role in that. We're ever increasing our investment in digital, and we continue to see that increasing. But very much starting from a channel neutral place rather than starting from the digital lens on, but that's becoming a key challenge. Part of that and how we evolve is also from a transformation. How do we evolve dynamically with our creative as well as our media? So we are testing and learning a number of different approaches. So how can we tailor our message to different consumers, but also tailor the creative and respond to the feedback from the market? So what social listening can we put into place from a digital standpoint that we can then respond to creatively, not just in terms of optimizing, but new creative that comes out there to respond to those cultural signals that we can receive. And then the other one for us is around always on measurement. We're constantly striving to using AI. How can we continually optimize and plan dynamically, working with our partners, publicists, in this instance. So how do we not rely on not even weekly, or even daily, but instant feedback loops on our optimizing and our planning? Again, particularly in the digital space, where that's the big opportunity. So for us, from a transformation agenda, the AI and the analytics and the machine learning is becoming more and more important. The challenge is, making sure we've got the right people to manage that science. And that's one of the elements of the transformation, again, which is the people dimension, which is I know we're going to talk about later. But the last point for me is, from a transformation standpoint, and digital is, again, to reiterate to my fellow marketing peers on the call, is it still comes down to great creative messaging. You need to have something that's going to cut through and consumers are going to care about and notice. And what cultural resonance can you tap into? What news can you hijack? How can your message become part of the conversation? And that's where you can truly utilize the digital transformation. And it's not just about the data and tech.
Okay, so now let's briefly look at building marketing capabilities. How do you get it right? Well, identify capability important to your company's growth strategy. Benchmark your capabilities externally. Use performance importance fit to identify gaps. Identify where marketing is a leader and where it's a supporter, and then prioritize the most important capabilities. Okay, got it. So this slide should help clarify our session title. We like to talk about green spaces and orange oceans, as highlighted here in this slide, just for illustration purposes. Green spaces are high fits, capability is good, and it's important to the organization for growth. Orange oceans are bad, they spell danger. They're important, but the organization is underperforming against them. In this example, this company's fit is strong. Green space in 2 or 3 areas: brand, talent management, design structures. But it has that dangerous orange ocean around platforms, data analytics, and customer journeys.
All right, Steve, so let's talk about where you are on this journey that I've just outlined.
Yeah, so we have a capability program with a marketing academy, that we've established within Nomad. And when we look at it from a growth flywheel, so we have which is not a marketing flywheel, it's a growth flywheel of which marketing, sales, revenue growth management all play a role. And we really look at how do we capture the capabilities and the synergies across that growth flywheel. At the heart of it is our absolute belief in kind of system one thinking, or lack of thinking, as it were, so on unconscious thinking, and how that drives ultimately penetration, getting into the consideration set for people, and then being front of mind to be able to convert that into purchase. So that covers branding, that covers media, that covers creative, that covers innovation, packaging, in store. We've got capabilities across the board. We assess the capability of our organization. We assess the capability of individuals against each of those dimensions. And we also do, and we started to do, particularly in areas which are moving fast and you really don't know what you don't know, external benchmarking. So we just, in the end of last year, went through an external benchmarking exercise to really understand what a best in class looked like, get an outside agency to support us in that. And that was amazing. And I would encourage people to think about their capability program in a different way, because when you mark your own homework, you give yourself a good score. And it's good to mark your homework versus the examiner, which external benchmarking can give you that provocation. And that's been hugely beneficial for us.
So moving on swiftly, Steve, to the next one. So you just talked about it there. So how have you and how are you going about ensuring that the capabilities that you have and actually those that you're building are going to be the most important to deliver growth over the coming years?
Yeah, so over the last 5 years, we've consistently increased the return on investment on our communications, whether it's media effectiveness or creative effectiveness. So we can see that tracking and improving over time. And what we see is how the different levers have a bigger or lesser impact on that consumer journey and that CX loop. The way we keep pace with that is ring fencing money, the 10% for test and learn. And we coordinate that across. Now we're getting much more organized. We're on a journey. We're getting much more organized to coordinate that across the group and across our 14 markets in Europe, so we can replicate those learnings fast across other markets. So we don't need to test and learn everywhere. So test and learn, and working with our partners on that to really push the boundaries of investment for return. Because of course, there's a reach versus targeting dimension to all of these improved ROIs, and there's the law of diminishing returns. So test and learn is a key part of how we keep pace with that. Continuous benchmarking, I talked about that earlier with capability. So we continually benchmark as well versus our peer set and beyond our peer set into best in class. So we don't view ourselves as in the comms area of just talking to or benchmarking versus food companies, let alone frozen food companies, is which brands are in conversation, which brands are doing great work, and how can we steal with pride and learn from them in terms of benchmarking. And the last one is we are going through a group or a company digital transformation, so embedding data science, analytics, and bringing a lot more of that in-house. And we're going on a 4 or 5 year journey on that as a company, touching many areas of our business. Clearly, marketing is part of that. So the use of data science, analytics, AI, machine learning will be again putting us at the forefront of some of these areas.
To combine and to transform available resources in ways that deliver your desired marketing outcomes should really focus on 4 crucial areas: people, technology, data, and process.
I think the final question, just Steve, for you then, is that whilst these are all important factors, the 4 that are up there on the screen, can you share with us which you consider to be maybe the most key, and how you're approaching, say, the 2 that are the most important for growth in the next 2 or 3 years? So maybe of what you just said before, just homing that into the 1 or 2 for our audience to take away.
Yeah. So I picked 2. I would pick 2. The first one absolutely is the foundation, is the people. I think every business, every company can eventually get the data and the technology. You can buy it in, you can outsource it, but ultimately it's what the people do with that information and turn that data into information, into insights, into business decisions, and therefore business growth is absolutely fundamental. So the people dimension to me is absolutely critical. And I'm a huge believer in investing in that very, very top talent in some of these key areas to leverage the technology and data we have. And then the second one I would pick would be the data, because without the data, the people can't deliver the growth. So we need the data, whether it's customer and CRM, whether it's revenue growth management, whether it's consumer and brand, all underpinned from consumer analytics and analysis, and ultimately data is key. So data is the foundation, but the real accelerator and the turbocharge comes from the people.
Great, thanks, Steve. People and data, I think we've got it. So amazingly, we're coming to the end of our time. So thank everybody who's on the call and on the show and looking through the lens on our fireside chat today. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Steve, for your insights that you've shared with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Steve. Bye now.
Bye.
The future of marketing can be summed up in 4 words: great stories well told. Or can it? Is it more a situation of, if you can't have a conversation about pixels and attribution models, you're a marketeer of the past? Well, let's have a conversation about the future of modern marketing, or more specifically, let's look to answer the question, the future of modern marketing. It's all about the data, isn't it? My name is Chris Babiodi, and I'm the MD of the MMA across the EMEA region. And I'm delighted and excited to be welcoming Leanne Cutts, the global CMO of HSBC, to this conversation. So Leanne, tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it that a global CMO is focused upon?
Thanks, Chris. I'm delighted to be here. Now, the role of a global CMO, well, I'm a marketer who believes in the holy trinity of marketing. And by that, I mean we exist to identify compelling customer insights that leverage our distinctive brand assets to drive business growth. So my role as a CMO is to ensure that we're paying sufficient attention to each of these 3. Insights, because we're the voice of the customer inside the organization, the insight whisperer, if you like. So data and information will tell you what customers are doing, but not why. And interpreting data and fusing this with insights is our special responsibility, I believe, and it helps us design and develop products and services that customers really need. Distinctive brand assets, because in a world of clutter, brands matter more, not less. And business growth, because we have an obligation to support the business ambitions of our organizations. So our brands will help more and more customers and be around for another 100 years, I hope. And so I believe that brands are at the heart of good business decision making.
Great, thanks, Leanne. So let's put today's conversation into context. I mean, we know that data is a significant part of the marketing budget, and it's increased in strategic importance in the last few years. However, the data ecosystem we know is in a state of rapid change, constantly changing dynamics, and increased regulation. And that's why at the MMA we've launched a new initiative called DAT, Data and Marketing Think Tank, to arm marketers with the best understanding of the data landscape, help them build winning data strategies, and build really this data-centric organization that we believe will help them drive better business outcomes and customer experiences. So Leanne, you and I have discussed data and marketing on numerous occasions. So please share with us and our audience how an organization like yours is really embracing this whole area.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. And the data we now have at our fingertips, Chris, is immense. And it should let us know where the best return for investment is. Now, we combine a number of different techniques to do what I expect, and to do what I expect are very familiar to a lot of our listeners. So data management platforms, end-to-end tagging and tracking, media optimization, custom audiences, lookalikes, MMM, and its next generation of multi-touch attribution. So we're simultaneously pushing out the efficiency and the effectiveness curves. And we're working with both external specialists as well as building a large part of that capability in-house. So we get more of a flexible or more porous kind of ecosystem with our external partners, because we want to tap into that leading edge thinking around data, but also keeping and build that institutional capability and memory. So a couple of examples where we've been using data to great effect. In Australia, for example, we've used the output from our MMM for media planning, market mix modeling for media planning. We've seen a 12% increase, for example, in some of our digital applications for home loans. We've got digital MMM specifically in Malaysia. We've got an incremental conversion rates of 40 to 50% versus control, and we're doing that well. On just simply something simple like end-to-end tracking on a personal loan in Hong Kong, we've been able to reduce our cost per approved application by upwards of 30%. So we've been using a number of different techniques and combinations of some of those techniques to be able to improve the returns on investment. And we're really encouraged by that progress. However, we know that we've identified through that a number of key challenges. I'll just mention kind of 3. The first one is around building a kind of robust digital data operating model. It takes time and continuous effort. We have to keep cleaning our data dictionaries and ensure consistent data quality. That is never done. The second thing is around increasing our focus much more around customer lifetime value and profitability modeling, not just revenue. And stitching that together across channels is challenging, as I know. I imagine a lot of people are finding similar experiences. And finally, the other thing that we're learning more and more about is how do we keep humanizing that customer experience? Getting the right brand tone and manner is critical. We've been using actually a lot of design thinking approaches to be able to do that well. And of course, we need to get ready for a cookieless future, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure. So you've mentioned brand in your opening remarks, and there you've mentioned digital marketing, maybe performance data. And we know from all our marketing members that there's a real tension that maybe exists between brand and performance marketing. As I said earlier, is it brand marketing? Is it all about storytelling? And digital marketing, maybe performance marketing, some use the same term for each, is about attribution and about pixels. So, let's maybe share with us your approach as a marketer and business leader. Is it one brand or the other, performance, or is it a blend or a hybrid? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and Chris, I am always bemused by this kind of either or thinking. I think it's great to set that up as the provocation, because we absolutely need to fuse data and insight. That's where we find the best return, when we can combine data with storytelling. And I think that great creative takes its lead from culture, from local communities, and taking a point of view actually that either swims with that culture or it cuts across it in a really distinctive and memorable way. And when it does, and then we're able to make sure we've got the right kind of modeling to ensure it's in front of customers when they need the product, and we're making it easy for them to complete their customer journeys, that's when we get the best return. So it is really fusing those things together. And that becomes then that self-reinforcing, that real virtuous cycle. And if we take a look from the UK, we'll be able to show a video in a moment, which I think kind of brings that to life, when we've been able to tell that story, have a point of view around culture, and then we've been able to optimize. So let's roll that video now.
We start the day with a Colombian, a Guatemalan, or a piping hot Costa Rican. We are not an island. We are part of something far, far bigger.
That's obvious. That's a branding example there. So I wondered if you maybe have an example or want to talk about one that's maybe more focused on performance.
Yes, and the example I have here is actually from Canada, where in 2020, because of COVID, there was a flight, of course, to digital adoption and digital acceleration, which is great. But we also need to make sure that we're, again, communicating with customers in the right way. So in a Canadian actually increased their digital banking, 70% of them actually use digital channels to look for financial services and help throughout the pandemic. And of course, at the same time, we had a restricted branch service because of the restrictions. So we need to get a much more effective digital marketing platform to be always on, to capitalize on that opportunity and address the customer needs. So we really kind of accelerate that always on digital acquisition in search, social, programmatic, affiliates. We had a data management platform, our DMP. We're able to, again, accelerate the adoption of that, build out over 400 audiences, including having our own kind of micro segments linked to our CRM data. So use that for retargeting, for finding lookalikes, and also suppressing existing customers. And we're able to get kind of triple-digit growth in digital sales, and also be able to really kind of improve the engagement level around social as well. So then being where the customer is at in that right moment, and then providing again the content that they really needed. So, a great result in a really actually quite kind of pressured time, a real pivot.
let's focus a little more on the pivot that all marketers have had to embrace given consumer behaviours in the last year or so. Pretty much without exception, all market MA members got projects to market in days or weeks when previously it would have been months, even years. So Leanne, share with us how you pivoted and what's now here to stay and embedded in HSBC's marketing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, things that did take us kind of months or weeks before were days and hours. I mean, one of our team actually built a chat over a weekend in days to make sure that we were able to communicate with customers in the right channel, but also importantly, release some of our other kind of colleagues to help people who are really struggling in others. So what we really found, of course, was that what we're fascinated now around is what are the habits that are now going to stick versus what we're calling the boomerang habits. So we know that digital migration will stick for a lot of transactional activities, and that's a really good thing. And actually, we've been experimenting a lot with different kinds of digital migration tools to say what are the things that we do want to encourage people to use more often. And then again, release resources to be able to engage customers in other ways as they come out of the pandemic. And in fact, we think about that in the kind of 3 R's, the kind of react, respond, and rebuild. And I think all of us are going through different stages of that depending on where we are around the world. And I think we're going to be going through that for some time. So one of the things that we worked on was actually not particularly complicated. Again, I think the encouragement here is to kind of start doing a lot of experiments and pilots. And we use a lot of agile methodologies to be able to do things in much shorter sprints. And one of the ones that we worked with Amazon to speak to customers who had an HSBC debit card in their Amazon wallet, but they weren't spending on it. So we actually just targeted through some very standard techniques, targeted display banners when they're on their purchase journey to the website or through other Amazon platforms such as Prime, to put some incentives in front of them at the right time, whether for example, a simple £10 Amazon voucher if they switch their default payment method. So that was just a very simple way of being able to move these sort of habits and make them sticky. So let's have a look at the Amazon one-click example.
So thanks, Leanne. Thanks for that one. But we can't have a conversation about data without talking about capabilities and resource. As I shared with you last month at the MMA, we published some findings from our marketeer survey in conjunction with EY, when we were trying to understand how mature or competent CMOs and their teams felt in various areas of consumer data. And really, we were looking to understand how the sort of tug of war between growth through data-driven decisions plays off against the risk of managing the complexity of marketing-generated data. And as you can see here from this chart, pretty much 9 out of 10 felt that their privacy, their governance, their compliance, their security was pretty mature, in pretty good shape. But the building of data capabilities and skills, 3 out of 10, 29%. So my question to you really on the back of this, how are you tackling this? How are you future-proofing yourself, Jimmy, and more specifically in a cookieless world that we're entering?
And I really resonate with that, Chris. I think, we put ourselves in a very kind of similar kind of position. Some of the things that we've tackled around that, apart from building out some capabilities and learning more broadly, it's now part of it, sort of, if you like, the competency frameworks we have for marketing careers in HSBC, and we do a lot of training around that. But specifically too around sort of the governance and security aspect, I think it is really important that as marketers, that we are part of those conversations and providing the use cases to our organisations around some of the challenges that we're finding. In simple things like changing terms and conditions in different platforms. So we've provided then a space for everyone to both learn and also to contribute use cases and debate those so that we can go back to the other kind of platform providers and have those conversations. Now, of course, getting ready for a cookieless future, as we're all in that place at the moment. We've identified a number of areas which we are continually having to kind of keep a focus on, particularly over the next few months. The first one is around data strategies for each element of first party, second party, and third party data. The second one is around data security blockages, and I mentioned this thing around data definitions before. So we're focusing a lot of attention around some of those blockages that might just be there because of legacy systems, as an example. The third one's around direct integration between internal and external platforms. And then that's also about building then direct relationships with walled garden publishers, especially on social. So that's a real focus area for us. And finally, then it's around the resources. And by resources, I mean people, time, and money, and ensuring that we're going to continually have this, because again, it's not going to be like, 1st of January, all kind of like sorted. This will be an ongoing effort for our organisation and Imagine marketers across the world. So we're finding that we're devoting more people, more time, more money to make sure that we're ready for whatever's going to come.